So, personal experience, without going into too much of the story, but some of you know I got hacked on Tuesday. My email got hacked, and wow, how interesting that was. They set up a rule so that all of my incoming emails showed up as already read and went straight to my deleted file. So when some of you were replying and saying, "Hey, is this legit?" The hacker was responding to you and saying, "Yes, it is, open it." And I didn't even know it because it was all in my deleted files. So that begs the question. I mean, cybersecurity has always been a top risk for companies, but how do you think the current environment will affect the trajectory of company spending on cybersecurity?
Well, for those of us on the call, we can't imagine during a time like this, people actually even wanting to do this. I mean, the whole world is in trouble right now. The economy's crushed. The unemployment globally is in an unbelievable situation. But that's why these people are who they are. They actually don't have a conscience. They don't care about it. And it is an opportunistic time for these folks. So you can be sure that the ramp up in cyber threats are probably double, triple, maybe even quadruple of what they were. It's something that everybody needs to be concerned about, and it's especially the emails right now. If you get an email, and this is actually, if you go to the Criminal Justice Information Services website, actually the number one threat right now is people posing to be a part of your company. So if you've got one or two, three employees, it's pretty easy to know who is there. But a larger company, these hackers are reaching out and saying they're part of the IT team and they need to set something up on your computer, or they're from the HR department and they need to check something. And people are giving these people permission to access their computer. And so in comes the bad guys, and it's a field day for them right now. I mean, so you have to be really mindful. If you get an email like that, be a little bit more of an overkill situation, I would say, than trusting, and pick up the phone and call and make sure that's actually somebody that's from your organization trying to get access to your email. And certainly don't click links right now. If you get an email about something, and even if it looks legit, because the spoofs are actually really good, type into the browser. You know, I'm going to use Walmart for an example. If something's on sale, type in walmart.com and go find whatever advert it was that you were looking for. Don't click on the link, because they're so good at faking them. I got one that was the other day that was my bank. It wasn't really my bank, but it was a spoof from my bank, and it was so close to what I actually get from my banking institution that, had I not been paying attention, and I almost did click on it. Last minute, I stopped myself, and I was glad that I did.
Yeah, I hear they changed like one letter, one space, one semicolon, one whatever, and you just don't notice it because it still says whatever your banking institution is, you know, at whatever it is, but off by one letter.
Yeah, and they're so good at it. I mean, you skim stuff. I mean, very rarely do we really read something like we're going to proofread it. So your mind actually thinks it said regions.com when it really said region.com, or Wachovia, something. So these guys are clever. That's all they think about, and all they do is scam people. So they're very good at it. So err on the side of caution now. I think I think about a month ago, my CFO got an email from me, busy in a meeting. I need you to transfer, I forget, like $50,000 or something like that. And I've never done that before. So he had the foresight to say, Rob doesn't do that. He would pick it up and call me. But it looked, I mean, it had my URL. It looked like it came from my email address. In fact, it did. It was just so out of character of how we would interact as a company, and how I would interact with him, that he was smart enough to not do what was being asked of him, and picked up the phone and made a phone call.
Scary stuff. It's going to sound like I'm making this up, but actually our bank account got hacked yesterday. So we went from my email on Tuesday to our bank account on Wednesday. And so that begs the question, what are we doing to protect our own in-home Wi-Fi? Is there anything that we need to be concerned about from the perspective of our Wi-Fi in our homes, and anything that we can do to protect that?
Yeah, I mean, we should always have been a little bit worried about this anyway, but you know, right now, if you're working from home and if you're accessing stuff in your office, especially if it's financial and stuff, you need to make sure you have a VPN connection, virtual private network connection. If you don't know how to do that, there are companies that can help you out. My company would help you out if you needed it, but make sure that you're using VPN connectivity into those things. And if you know, this does change the landscape a bit from an investment perspective, because a lot of companies that never had planned on having so many people work from home are now having people work from home. So you have to think about these extra threats, because with more people working outside of a corporate office, inside of the confinement of firewalls and safety, there's more opportunity for the bad guys right now. So most of your home routers actually come with a firewall built into it. But what people don't know is usually they're not activated. So even though, you know, whoever Spectrum or KM set this up for you, a lot of times, in fact, most times, the firewalls are not activated in those devices. So you need to make sure that that is activated inside of your home router. If you're extra worried about it, you know, without spending loads of money, Cisco makes a product called an ASA, which is a security device. It can be configured remotely as well, or you can have a company order it, configure it for you, and then send it to you. So the installation is super easy. But now is the time that you've got to be thinking about that a little bit more, because there is more opportunity, which means more bad guys trying to do bad things.
So there's all kinds of reports about Zoom crashing and unemployment site crashing and Facebook crashing and all of those things. Do we have the existing adequate infrastructure to support this much online activity from our homes?
So I think probably the carriers do. I don't know. So you just use Zoom, which we ironically are on a Zoom call right now, but Zoom is getting a lot of flack right now. In fact, SpaceX just banned any employee from using Zoom because of privacy concerns. And in fairness to Zoom, you know, God, I wish I would have had stock in Zoom. I mean, they went from 10 million users per day, which is already a lot, to 200 million users per day using Zoom software and technology platforms. So, you know, of course, it's great to have all that business, but they never expected an explosion in growth to be that quickly. So I'm sure Zoom is going to work really hard on the back end to make corrections to that. But right now they're in a tough spot. And a lot of these websites like unemployment, you've heard the nightmares about, you know, unemployment, the SBA loan process. I think one of my friends told me for 5 days they tried to get through the SBA loan process and they get a quarter of the way through it and it would crash. So how they combated that is they actually didn't start until like 11 p.m. at night to get it done. But I think, you know, the game has changed. Nobody was really prepared for something like this. I think there is some good that will come out of it, because it is changing how we do business. I think somebody said earlier, you know, they're just not used to making these types of calls because it's not how we did business. And it's actually really an effective tool. It's just really strange at first. You're not used to looking at somebody on a screen and talking to them. So once you get past the uncomfort level of it, it becomes very normal. And in fact, I'm calling friends randomly. I call 1 or 2 friends a day, not about business. And I don't call them normal. I call them FaceTime, or I call them on some kind. And I don't warn them that I'm going to call them. I just call them that way. And I think 99% of the time, they're really happy to have the interaction because nobody can see anybody anymore.
Yeah, so you have offices around the globe, and you shared something really, really cool that you did for your team. And just in general, I want you to talk about how you're keeping your team connected, how you're keeping them positive, how all of us as business owners and leaders can do our best work with our teams, and at the same time allow them, you know, obviously the ability to work from home and trust them and let them know that we trust them. So I'm super jealous of what you did for your team that you shared with me. I'd love for you to share that with everyone else, and then talk a little bit more about what you're doing.
Sure. It's really important right now, I think, to overshare. I'm not a micromanager. I've got a really good management team. They have, you know, daily huddle. They call it huddles, which is, you know, 5 or 10 minutes, just a recap. That's certainly not in my DNA to be able to do that, which is why you get a management team. But I do have a video call every week. I think the most important thing, and I'm the one that holds it myself, and I think it's important for the messaging to come from me, because there's a feedback loop of negativity 24/7 on every single channel called the news. And yes, we're going to have friends that get laid off, but actually our employees are safe right now. Our company is in a unique position where this situation calls for more IT, and we have a lot of service-based businesses all around the globe. So we're going to be okay. So I want to share that messaging to them every week, and I want them to come from me, and I highlight all the good stuff that's gone on, new contracts that we've won, outstanding performance by the team, because the moment the employees don't feel safe, or your team members don't feel safe, is when things can go casters up, and it can happen really quickly. So I think it's really important as business owners or CEOs to be very transparent about how you're doing, and make sure that everyone knows that, you know, if you're in a situation where you're not going to have to do layoffs, that you're conveying that back to your team. And as long as they work hard and do what they're supposed to do, we won't be faced with that. Or at least we hope not. We can't control what happens, but as of right now, things are okay. And doing calls like this once a week, it gets everybody on the board and it sees each other. So I think it was last Friday. I do my calls on Tuesdays. On Friday, I set up a noon call Eastern time, and we have people obviously dispersed throughout the world, but at noon, everybody's on. I'm in my boardroom now, but you can see the WebEx up there, and you can see people joining in and coming online. And I'm sure some of them thought that was a strange time, because I usually do 8:45 Eastern time AM for an update, but you could hear doorbells ringing. Some people weren't going to answer the door. I'm like, you should probably answer it, especially if you knew what was going on. But I had pizzas delivered to everybody's house that works for us. I also had a 6-pack of beer delivered to everybody's house, and sometimes that had to come in 2 different deliveries, because not all pizza places deliver a beer. And I said, look, guys, the agenda today is 3 things. The morning meeting's 3 things: health of the company, wins, and Q&A. So on that Friday, it was 3 things: pizza, beer, and fun. I found out one of the people that work for us has a bearded dragon. I mean, I got to see people's kids, and everybody was just sharing, and it was 30 to 45 minutes of a lot of laughs, everybody picking on each other and getting to see each other. And to be honest with you, it was actually more togetherness on that single call than I think anything that we've ever done as a company as a whole, because even when you have a company outing, there's cliques. Even if it's not intended to be, you know, the Christmas party, these people hang out over here and they sit at this table. And it was just, it was really cool to see everybody just kind of relax and let them know that though we can't see each other, we're still thinking about you. So it was better received than what I thought it was. So I've got a couple other tricks up my sleeve, because we've got probably another 30 days at least of this. And it's little things like that can keep the morale up.
Share what the other tricks
know that you really
are. We're all dying to know.
What's that?
I said, can you share what the other tricks up your sleeve are?
No. Now I'll share with you for next week. So next week, on Friday, I'm going to put out, you know, in this time, and it's really important to have the right messaging and a lot of patience during this time for people, because everybody's stressed out. You know, you don't know what somebody's going through on the other end of it. So I think you have to have a lot of patience. So it'll be, you know, this is a time that we can all work on ourselves. And we need to, more than ever, we need to take care of our eating habits, and we need to take care of our workouts, which I'm probably one of the more guilty parties of, letting this be an excuse to get away from some of my workouts. So on Monday, I'm going to send out to the entire company a message around that, and I'm going to say, here's my commitment. I'm going to work out 3 days a week. I'm starting this book, which I will finish by this, and I'm going to update those commitments to keep accountability. And anybody that wants to, they don't have to, if anybody wants to, can join in on that, and we'll do a little status update and a call to keep everybody pumped up. But that will be for next week. And then one of my managers had a great idea for the following one, and I don't know if any of them are on the phone, so I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but
okay.
It revolves around Netflix in the weekend. So I'll give you a little teaser, and I'll be happy to let you know after we do it.
So for next week's fitness, committing to 3 days a week, are you sending a Peloton to everyone's house?
No, not doing that. But I did have my trainer do write up a workout from home with complete pictorial. So if somebody doesn't really know how to work out at home or know what these exercises are, we'll show them, and then made up a diet that would be best to eat right now based on what's going on for your immune system, which I'm sharing with everybody on Monday.
That's cool. Hey, Jason, can I know you have the power, but can I go off script for a second and break the rules and ask somebody else a question really quickly?
Of course you can. Everybody can. Everybody does have the power to unmute themselves, whether you know it or not. So,
Omar.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I know culture is really, really important in your company, and you guys do those daily huddles normally when we're living in the world that most of us live in. I see you've stopped shaving also, but I just wanted to see if you guys are doing anything around that whole culture part of your business and that 11:14 meeting or something that you do every day.
Yeah, so we actually do, for us, it's a bi-weekly meeting. So my partners and I, we still actually meet regularly twice a week. Now that we're actually constantly online, we're actually able to have real quick ones from time to time. But what we do is, even if we have to just check in with each other, just to kind of see how we're doing, we'll get on that Zoom conference call and we'll immediately just start, having that conversation. And the first conversation we have is, how's everybody doing? Is everybody healthy? My two other partners there, one of their spouses is actually a pediatrician. So we're constantly trying to check up on them to see what is it that they're doing. She's in the thick of things. And then we actually start getting into business. So, and trying to adjust to, of course, today's climate. So we're pretty fortunate that we've continued to actually do that. And if we have to end a meeting in 5 minutes, we end a meeting in 5 minutes. So it just continues to keep us connected, but more importantly, kind of making sure that we're okay.
Thank you. I know you weren't prepared for that. Sorry. I saw your face and I just wanted to see what you guys were doing, because you're typically pretty innovative when it comes to those things. So back to Mr. Rob Hessel. Any apps or products that we should be concerned about? Everybody's really doing a good job of embracing new technology, and sure, I'll do that. I'll try that, yeah, me included. And now look what happened. But is there anything in particular that we should specifically be staying away from?
I don't know if there's anything particular that you should be staying away from. I mean, we use Zoom, even though we've had a security threat, but we actually have WebEx. So I'm trying to push everybody to using WebEx because it's a bit more secure. But our marketing director, she loves Evernote, so do I. But I certainly wouldn't make my whole team do that. We do use Teams because we're an Office 365 shop. But what I would say to everybody is, just be very careful, because there are a lot of apps out there and it can get real convoluted. And all of a sudden you've got, 40 different things being used by people, and where's things at? And is this over here? Oh, I sent it through this. So I think I'd be very, very careful and make sure that I'd set out as kind of a mandate. These are business function items. So use these, and I only want you to use these. Don't tell me you did it through XYZ, because I'm not using XYZ. So I think that's something that you got to be really careful of.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm starting to think that we're a bit obsessed with each other, because we're actually meeting every morning at 10 and every afternoon at 5 for a virtual happy hour. You guys are talking about weekly meetings and we're doing 2 a day. You're welcome to join our team happy hours every day at 5 o'clock. I have one last question, and we're a lot more efficient than I expected us to be. A lot of you guys submitted questions ahead of time. We did filter through them, and Rob and I actually picked what we thought the most important ones were, and didn't expect to be able to get through this many of them. So I'm very, very surprised. So if you have questions, jump in that chat box. If you don't know how, it's at the bottom of your screen somewhere. At least it is on mine. And put those questions out there, and I'll make sure to ask them on your behalf. But my last question, Rob, is what is your prediction for the economic recovery for the United States and the rest of the world?
Gosh, I try not to think about how bad this is actually going to be. And I don't know if anybody can actually get their mind around it. And we talk about 30 days from now, hopefully that's when we're going to go back to normal, but nothing's going to be normal in 30 days. I mean, there's a ton of people that are out of work right now. So they've got to recover financially before they can think about doing anything else. There's also going to be the hangover of being quarantined, and the fear factor. It'll take at least 6 months, in my opinion, for people to forget. And the paranoia. Is it really safe to go back to business as usual or life as usual? And I think probably people will be more careful than they've ever been. But I think it's probably an 18 to 24 month recovery period before things actually level back out. And unfortunately, there's going to be companies that probably will never come back from this. But on the upside, there are going to be some companies that start during this time that are going to be unicorns. I mean, they're going to be worth billions of dollars because of the creativity and how out of the box and what a shift in operations we've had to make as companies. So, it is definitely a sad time for people. I've got a lot of friends in the hospitality industry, and I feel for those people, and I pray for them, and try to do what I can to help them. But it's also an incredible time in the marketplace, just like back in 2011 when the economy was not doing well. That's when I started Source One as a services company. This is actually an opportunity to start something that's going to be very special and it can become a great company. So you can look at it in either way. But I think I don't even want to think about how bad it's going to be. But I do think it's going to be a long recovery period for the economy to come back to where it was.
Well, and just to follow up, I was having a conversation with somebody earlier, and I won't call her out because she's on here and she didn't give me permission to, but she said, why is everyone only talking about hospitality? And I said, well, that's a tremendous part of our economy, obviously, in the state of Florida. But, my daughter yesterday got laid off from a position that was completely unrelated. She worked at a title company. We know a nonprofit executive who was laid off or furloughed yesterday, has nothing to do with hospitality. The people, an aquarium person, I mean, I could go on and on and on about the people that we know that have lost their jobs. And so it's just really, really sad to see that happening. And I'm hoping that the stimulus package is going to make a difference on that and that they're going to start to rehire.
Yeah, well, you're right. And I think it's easy to go to hospitality because especially here in Tampa, I mean, that's a large sector of the business here. I mean, I was in Clearwater Beach and it was actually eerie. Hotel lights are completely shut off. High-rise buildings that are normally lit up with tons of activity, they're completely shut off. But, the mortgage business, people aren't buying condos and homes right now. I mean, the auto industry, my brother got laid off. He's in the auto business. He's a sales manager, and usually sales managers don't get laid off, but the owner is actually running the business because nobody's buying cars right now. So it's touching everybody's lives, and one way or another. I mean, so all we can do is hope that things get back to normal as soon as possible, and continue to think outside of the box with doing. This is great to have this happy hour. Everybody wants to see people and to get away from the news and the constant feedback loop of negativity and know that we're going to be all right and have a little bit of fun, even if it's just for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. I think it's really important.
Yeah, well, and I think, there's a saying about creativity and necessity, and that this is when people learn to pivot and when some new ideas come out. And, I'm proud of what we're doing. We set out to continue to provide that value to our partners and advertisers and sponsors, and said, okay, how do we do that? And so if we can also provide great content and conversations with people like you that are experts in that industry, then we're remaining relevant for our audiences across the board. And so it's a great time to look at your business differently and to pivot and to create and hold on for the ride. So speaking of great partners and sponsors, Ray Ferreira has a question. He says, what is the biggest opportunity that you have as we come out of this mess, and what is keeping you up at night?
So my biggest fear actually is there's tons of opportunity for everybody, I think, but my biggest fear is there will be some companies that stop CapExes. Like, I mean, we have installs in Italy that we've had to cancel. Obviously, there's not an engineer on the planet that's going to go somewhere right now and do an installation in Italy. But my biggest concern is that when all this gets behind us, all these projects that were really easily manageable because we had this time to do this and we could manage all these different things with resources, everybody's going to want to hit go immediately at the same time. And I think the big challenge for us and a lot of different companies is going to be able to manage that, because there's going to be a tremendous uptick in work and not as many people out there to deliver it. And people are maybe not going to be as patient because they've had a big bit of cabin fever. And some of these bigger projects have been put on hold so long that it's affecting their business. And so I think, right now it's bad, but I think once this gets past us, I think everybody's going to be busier than what they want to be. I mean, I think that's what's keeping me up at night is when 8 companies, big global companies, say go, and we were at one point geared up perfectly to handle those projects and deliver them, and they all want them at the same time. Are we going to be able to pull it off? And are we going to kill ourselves in the process of trying to do it?
Well, and somebody had asked earlier, and I missed it, how will this change the way that we do business moving forward? And, I was thinking about a former company that had a no work from home policy. And I think while we all feel like caged animals right now, once we have to go back to the office and we have to stop working at home and being with our pets and our kids and our spouses and all those things, I wonder if there's going to be a backlash of like, well, why can't I work from home? I did my job from home for, 60, 90, whatever it ends up being days, and how that's going to play out. And I think that's one of the things that's going to change forever, potentially. What about you?
I think it's a great point, and I think we would be silly not to take this time. I mean, there's all kinds of technology to let people work from home, but I think what the difference maker is, in companies that will do well during this time and thrive during this time, is it really comes back to the culture of the company. We have a big culture of trust here at this organization, as you know from being around me for a while. You know, if your kid has a play or there's a ball game or something like that, don't call in sick, don't lie, just take the time off. And when you're done, go back to work. And we have a lot of people that don't work from home, not because they couldn't, but just because it's part of the, I guess, the normal business operating procedure to have people, you know, come into the office. And I think some people want that, but I think you'd be remiss not to take this time right now to instill those things that are going to make people want to work very hard from home, that you can trust them to work from hard at home. My biggest concern actually is people will work a bit too hard. Anybody that's worked from home knows that an 8-hour day at the office is about a 4-hour day at home. And I have no problem, you know, on our last call saying, listen, you're going to get a lot more done than normal. And if you get all your work done, that's all I really care about at the end of the day. I don't care, you know, if you're sitting at a desk from 8 until 5. In fact, that's stupid. You know, don't go to the grocery store on the weekend when everybody's going to the grocery store. You're not going to find anything. And there's tons of people. Let your manager know from 10 to 11 on Monday, you're going to the grocery store and go, you know, get it done. So I think now is the time to really, if you haven't done it before, is really set a culture of trust with your people. Let them feel safe. And if you do that, my belief is people are good people and they want to do well, and they will repay you 1,000 times over by working very, very hard for you.
I agree with you 100%. I'm definitely working way more than, and it's not because I'm working more, it's because I'm not in my car driving to appointments. I'm not spending my time, you know, going here and to and fro and everything else. And so sitting there all day, sometimes I have to remind myself to eat, which my team says all the time. I have to remind myself to get up and walk around, give myself permission. And, you know, we joked last week, I said on Friday, I think I'm going to call today Saturday. And I'll call Saturday, Friday, and just swap because I'm tired and I don't want to work today, you know, but it's like, there are no days anymore. There are no times anymore. And that leads me into something that I really didn't plan to talk to you about, but even prior to all of this, we were having conversations with people around what working from home and isolation does to a person from a mental health perspective. And where we were kind of headed as a country already with so many people being isolated and lonely. I had a conversation with Cigna around it, and they're very, very focused on it. We have a county commissioner that's very focused on it. What do you think about that part of with all of us being here? I mean, how do we combat some of that? I mean, obviously Zoom meetings and virtual happy hours, but any other suggestions?
Yeah, I think you have to be creative to do some stuff like the pizza and a beer thing was just one easy way to make everybody know, number one, that we cared and the management team cared about them, but and bringing people together. But that's something that's probably not going to be talked about ever. So and it will never get linked to coronavirus. But think about the suicide rate after all this goes, especially some of the small businesses. And those are the ones that I worry about the most. Is every small business, their employees are their family, and it is really difficult when you think about them as your extended family, to lay people off and make hard decisions. And a lot of people won't do it. They'll let the ship go down completely before they'll actually follow through with that. And some people may have mortgaged their house to buy a business, and that's just, I don't think it will ever be tied back to it, but it's not going to be interesting, but it's going to be sad to know how many people this has affected in a way that it's either ruined their life completely or they've taken their life because they felt so bad about it.
Wow. Yeah, I keep hearing a joke too that there's going to be a big baby boom, but only with people who don't already have children. The people that are locked in their houses with their children will not be a part of the baby boom, right?
Divorce rate and childbirth rate probably are both going to go through the roof because of
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else have anything you want to jump in? You can. I'm okay with mics being unmuted, and as you know, I don't usually allow live questions because sometimes people can misbehave, but I want to give everybody the opportunity to feel like this was time well spent and ask any questions that they might have.
I think it was was definitely time well spent. So Bridget and Rob, thank you both so much. I think you've done a great job. Rob, you had mentioned WebEx as being more secure than Zoom. Can you talk a little bit more about that and why that's true?
Yeah, well, Zoom wasn't prepared for the influx, and admittedly, the CEO came out and was just tremendously honest and said we never expected this many users. I mean, going from 10 million users a day to 200 million a day is it's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. But you know, we made a choice to go to Cisco because obviously security is a huge thing to Cisco. WebEx is a tried and tested product. And I don't know exactly what it costs. I don't remember, but it really wasn't as painful as I thought it was going to be. So we can have up to 100 Cisco, because everything Cisco is very expensive, always. But this, in perspective of how much we were going to use it, it really wasn't painful. So I can find out what it costs or what you can expect, and I'll send out an email to Bridget so you can distribute to the whole group. But yeah, we chose that just because, number one, everybody can have their own private chat room. So it's in my email signature. You just click on that. It's very simple to use. But we chose Cisco just because we knew that security was a huge thing that they'd already taken into consideration. And unlike Zoom, again, this is no fault to Zoom. I think Zoom's a cool product. Cisco is an enterprise, big time business solution that they already expected to have a huge amount of people using their product.
Thanks.
Yeah, and Jennifer Garbowitz just asked, what's the best way or ways you have found to support the local community during all of this? And I think all of our businesses are giving back in one way or another. I know that we at TBBW have committed to not being a part of the problem and not being a part of the media hysteria, and providing positive news and positive things that companies are doing. And we're, I think issue number 3 of Tell Me Something Good just went out via email today. So if you're not on our subscriber list, go sign up, tbbwmag.com. But we are very intentional about providing information that people need, that's relevant, but that's not coronavirus, you know, jumping on that C word thing. Rob, have y'all done anything from a community give back perspective that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of our main values, is give back to the community, and everybody that works for Source One is allowed 4 hours off per month with pay to support and approve charity. But I will share a quick story because it's easy overseas for it to get lost in translation. Sometimes even though they're literally on an island, sometimes we treat them like they are. But one of our project managers is actually volunteering his time on the weekends to project manage a company that's making PPE devices. So he's giving up, and he's got a family and he's got young kids and stuff like that. And he works a great deal as well, but he's giving up his weekends and some nights to help them project manage the whole process of getting some PPE devices made. And I'm sure there's other great stories about that, but I think it's just a good time to be a really good neighbor. People that live next door to me are older, and I try to check on them every other day. And every time I'm going out, do you need something? Can I run any errands for you? And what usually I get back is, oh no, somebody already did this or that. Like my whole neighborhood, I'm seeing the best in people, not the worst in people. People really coming together to help each other, and that's good because it's nice to see hope and positivity when there's so much shit around us all the time.
So Jim Marshall just popped up on the screen and said, we're providing complimentary virtual access to training and business development best practices. And I have to give him a shout out, and Jason will nod his head when I say this. This idea literally came from us being on a webinar. I don't know what you call it. I think it was a webinar with Jim and Jim and Clint, and what their suggestions were on how to thrive during this stuff that we're going through. And the number one recommendation was take care of your clients. Do whatever you can to add value and to still be relevant and to let them know that you care and to be there for them. And that really is where the idea to do this series of Virtual Connects came from. So thank you, Jim and Clint, for that. And thank you for what he said was they're providing complimentary virtual access to training and business development best practices. So for those of you who have sales staffs or are running companies, that's a resource out there that you may not have known about. Maureen, I don't know how to say your last name, Maureen, so I'm not going to do it, but it says media is looking for good news. I've been pitching positive stories and they are looking for it. Rob's Pizza Beer Project is awesome. My background is TV news for over 30 years. So I know they want to do positive on all channels. I won't comment on that because I disagree, but thank you for all the thank yous that are out there. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anyone's questions. Oh, wait. Oh, Jolene's telling everybody send her the positive stories. Okay. Cindy Hesterman, I have a question for Rob. Jason, can you unmute Cindy Hesterman?
I was able to unmute myself.
Hi.
So Rob, one of the things that I'm hearing from my Vistage members is with their teams all being virtual now, some of them for the first time, is they're really noticing the extroverts are suffering and the introverts are thriving. Since you've had a lot of your team be virtual for a while, have you noticed that? And what are you doing to kind of meet the needs of both?
Well, I'm one of the extroverts, so I'm climbing the walls at home too. I mean, I haven't stayed in one place as much as I have over this period of time, so I think that's a very true statement. I hadn't noticed that specifically, but I do notice that this is actually forcing the introverts inside of the company to become a little bit more extrovert by ways of doing video calls like this. And I mean, I've even got, and it's one of my senior leadership team, she hates to pick up the phone and talk to somebody. She'd rather send an email. And she's a very good communicator and a great personality. She just hates it. But this is kind of forcing people into this. And I hadn't thought about that. It's actually a really good point. So we're not doing anything to address it, but I think that's something that's probably good to think about. The pizza and beer thing was, again, I was blown away by the response from it, because people that usually would be shy were speaking up, especially when you bring animals into it. So, I mean, there was cats, there's dogs, there's, like I said, a bearded dragon. And it was a really cool way and non-threatening way. I think when you're sitting in a boardroom and everybody's inside of it, it can be a bit intimidating because the extroverts take over and they don't let the introverts have their say. But when you're doing a big video chat like that, everybody's just kind of equal because you're all on a screen talking into a stupid computer or into a phone. So I don't know. We haven't specifically done anything to address it, but that is a really good point.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean,
Beer helps with everything. So beer and wine.
Beer helps everything. Yes. That's why you think we sent it. And I love pizza. So
there's a lot of memes going around about that the extroverts are going crazy and the introverts have been preparing for this for their entire lives, and they're loving it because nobody's messing with them and they don't have to leave their homes.
Hey, Rob. Yeah, I jumped on late and you might have already covered this, but an idea that we got from one of our clients, they've got appointments with customers and prospect booked 30 days out, and obviously those have all canceled. So what they decided to do was they decided to keep the lunch appointments with their clients and customers. They're sending them an Uber Eats certificate.
Yeah. And
they're inviting them to redeem the Uber Eats certificate, and they're just sitting around at lunchtime talking business.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
It's brilliant.
It's a great way to do it. You were going to spend the money anyway, right, Jim?
Well, yeah, exactly.
It's actually probably cheaper to do it through Uber Eats. But what I will tell you is Grubhub and Uber Eats, if you try to send lunches, about 100 of them, you will get flagged, and they're going to give you a call to make sure that you're actually really ordering all that food. So, but I think it's really smart to do that and set it up. And I think there's a lot of different ways. And now I am going to let the cat out of the bag, Bridget. But so after this week, we're going to do the fitness and the improve yourself. But the following week on Friday, I'm going to have popcorn and all the different things like for a Netflix weekend. So I'm going to have a gift basket delivered to everybody's house. So, hey, while you're watching Netflix this weekend, and by the way, share what you watch on Netflix. So in case any of us haven't seen it, and give it some kind of rating. So, but that's a great idea, Jim, having virtual lunches and having Uber or Grubhub or DoorDash or the millions of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great idea.
You know what's funny about that, Jim, is just to give a point of perspective. I mean, one of the things that we were saying was, wow, look at all the money we're going to save on client lunches and coffees and cocktails and dinners, and instead of looking at it as an opportunity to do something that is apart to be different. So thank you for
that's actually brilliant. I didn't think of that, Jim. In fact, I can only imagine the response that you get from somebody when you say, hey, I want to have lunch with you tomorrow. Are you open?
Right.
Can I have lunch? Yeah, well, you can. What do you want? That's a great idea. I love it.
Rob, I sent you one. Did you get it? No, never mind.
No, I didn't.
So am I reading this article correctly that we were talking about earlier this morning, that you are #1 on Inc.'s America's 1,000 largest and most inspiring private companies?
No, not #1. They didn't rank them, but they did.
You up #1 on mine.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't even know about that list, but yeah, privately held companies in North America, and it was about companies that are staying private. So I was shocked, #1, and yeah, I'm really proud to see our name on that list, and it's having really great people, that's for sure. And you know, I'm sleeping very good at night from a business perspective of knowing that all of our people are doing the right thing and they're working. I don't have to check on them, and their managers don't have to look over them all day long. And we can't control what's going to happen around the world in the economy, and hopefully everybody pays their bills and can get through this. But yeah, I mean, it's again, that's the thing I can't stress enough, is now is a time to think about the next time this happens, because it's going to be something. I mean, we're in Florida. I mean, what if it was a hurricane? So, you know, use this to start building the culture that you want, where it's all about trust, and you've got the right people. You'll sleep a lot better at night.
So I just got a
Hey,
question.
Bridget, can I give another shout out while we're giving shout out?
Sure.
Well, one, first of all, to you for putting all this stuff together. So thank you very much to you and Jason and your team. I mean, great people. But the other one, I see Ray Ferrara's on the screen, and his people have been absolutely fabulous in all this in terms of providing information about the payroll initiative and the SBA stuff. If you want any information, boy, they've got it all locked and loaded and ready to go. So Ray, thanks to you and your people for that.
Ray's a great partner and a great guy, and we've been paying attention to his stuff as well. I want to make sure, because it pumps up every time somebody writes something, but John Bolos had a question for Rob. He said, for a company that has been paper-heavy process to complete its process, do you recommend Slack or Microsoft Teams?
I've never really used Slack, so I can't speak to it. I know a lot of people do use it. We use Teams here as a company. I'm a paper guy. I'm looking at my notes for today on paper. Even though I'm a tech company, I like to write stuff down. So I don't really have a lot of experience with Slack. I think some people in our company do use it, but whatever it is that you choose, I think it's really important that you standardize on it and make sure that it's documented, that if it's related to company business, if it doesn't happen in Microsoft Teams or whatever it is that you're choosing to use, it didn't happen. You just don't want a bunch of people running amok and using whatever they feel like using.
Yeah, I can tell you, it's been a little bit overwhelming, because we already had Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Now I have Teams, Slack, Zoom, my cell phone. It's like, oh my God. But we have been operating in both of those for different reasons. And Slack seems to be more responsive, but it has less choices and less bells and whistles, I guess, than Teams. Teams seems to be more user friendly and have more bells and whistles. So that's based on personal experience, 15 days in, but we use them quite a bit. So
I think either one of them are good. I think Slack's I don't use it personally, but I know a lot of companies that do and a lot of people that do, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. And it's been around for a long time too, so it's not like it's a startup. So I think you're probably safe to use it, but I just don't know well enough.
Thank you, Rob.
Hey, Bolos, what'd you say?
I was saying thank you, Rob.
Oh. All right, you guys. Well, we've got 5 minutes left, and I don't want to take away from what Provise has been sending out, but I know that their list is probably limited to clients and partners. We do have another one of these next week. Our plan is to continue to have these. The one next week will be very focused in the SBA eligibility and rules and things you need to know. And that was based on our conversations with some pretty smart people that are very entrenched in it right now. You're not going to find a banker that says anything other than they are freaking out, because I guess tomorrow is the day that the floodgates open, and they've been given very little direction. So we chose next Thursday because they feel like a lot of the kinks are going to have been worked out. A lot of the bugs are going to have been worked out. We'll have kind of an early check on how much of the $350 billion is gone within, just shy of a week. So you will see an invitation for that, and we would obviously welcome and be honored to have you be a part of that. And if you guys have suggestions for these, or if you want to be a part of putting these on, yeah, I'm super accessible. So is Jason. We all are. Jolynn is, and she put out a plea. I don't know if everybody's paying attention to the chat or not, but if you have some of those positive stories that your company is doing or that you see somebody doing, send them to us. And the engagement on that positive news has just been phenomenal. People are so appreciative to see something finally that's not depressing and doesn't make them feel worse. It makes them feel better. So share those stories with us so that we can continue to share them with the business leaders in Tampa Bay. And oh, now the chat's blowing up again. Let me make sure I didn't miss a question before I give everybody opportunity to hang up. Yep, Jennifer Garbowitz in the banking world says that she's overwhelmed in the CARES stuff. Lots of thank yous. Green screen for video, Jim. Are you trying to tell me something? We created
Just saying, just
we
saying.
created this one. I mean, it's, you know, it's a stopgap, but okay. All right, well, if there are no more questions, unless you just want to hang out and have a happy hour, which I'm okay with that too, consider this done, and thank you for being here.
Bridget, I will leave it with this too. I know that a lot of people weren't expecting to have to work from home. So if you do need any, if you're struggling with any technology stuff, you have any questions, I may not know the answer. I've got a really smart team of people here, but feel free to reach out to me either in social media or through an email, and I'll do my best to get back and give you as best guidance as I can.
Absolutely. You'll be hearing from me. I don't know what this VPN router stuff is, but I want you to fix it.
All right.
Rob,
with
thank
that,
you for giving us your time.
Thank you.
And with that, I am going to stop the record so we can behave badly if anybody really wants to. No behaving badly. We're not doing that. We'll kick you out of the meeting if you behave too badly. But you know what I mean. So thanks, everybody. Fantastic. We'll see you next week.